Hello, everyone, and welcome to Buffalo Wild Wings in Pikeville. It's home of the Coach Kelly Wells Show, where we talk to you Pike basketball every week at this time, and we thank you for tuning in. The Bears coming off a 1-1 week in the Mid-South Conference, a loss to Life University, and a win over Maine Fort Kent, a quality opponent, and now the Bears head toward a 4-game stretch to close out the regular season. Tonight, you'll have a chance to meet a couple of the assistant coaches with the University of Pikeville. But without further ado, our coach, Kelly Wells. Welcome in, Coach.
Hey, Andrew. Doing great. How are you tonight?
Great. I know it's tough for you because you're not a good loser. Some would say you're a sore loser, but you're a winning coach. You're never satisfied when you have a loss. Life University, your team played well enough to win, but having trouble getting it in the hole. How frustrating is that for a guy who is a scorer, was a scorer in his playing days, and his teams generally can handle things offensively?
It's ultimately frustrating. There's no other word to put it. It's tough to watch. I see the work that we're putting in. I know our guys are giving the right kind of effort. We're doing the hard things. We're playing good defense. We're rebounding the basketball. Right. Just finding that ball to go through the hole sometimes has been just woefully hard for us to do for some reason. And, we're not really doing anything different. We've tried to mix it up. We've tried to go to the basket more, get to the free throw line a little bit more. And it's just we've been a little bit anemic. We're in a little bit of a slump. Without question, we've just got to continue to fight through it and dig through it. And we're practicing very hard. We're competing every second of practice. And hats off to Life. They came in and played unbelievably great. The last 6 games have been off the charts. And we caught them at the wrong time. They got hot late in the game and made some big-time shots. We brought it to 1. Even playing as poorly as we did offensively, and they ended up stretching it back out real quick because of our mental approach defensively. We lost a couple people on some threes. But hats off to them. They're playing good. And we've got an opportunity down the stretch to handle this adversity and take advantage of our opportunity down the stretch.
You look at that game, the Bears out-rebounded Life, committed less turnovers. It just came down to shooting and as equally as frustrating from the free throw line. Didn't shoot it well from the stripe as well. Sometimes teams in January, in February will hit a wall, and they go into these slumps. Have you had teams like this offensively before?
And I've really not had a sustained drought like we have. This has been several games in a row now that we fought through and got some wins and have persevered through some of those poor shooting nights. And it's not like we're taking bad shots.
Right.
We break down the film. There are some in there that we need to get rid of.
Sure.
But, for the most part, they're not bad shots. Sometimes we're off balance a little bit. Our concentration, obviously, sometimes around the basket isn't perfect, but we're getting the ball where we want it. We're getting it in the positions and the people that we want to have it. We just got to break down that wall and start finding our confidence again. And there's nothing I can inject to them and hand them. They've got to work through it. Just keep digging, and we are. We're just going to keep digging, and there's going to be a time where we get it right, and it's going to look pretty, and certainly we'll make our scores look good too.
And we've seen that. Yeah, out of this same team, we've seen that. It's just the ball going through the basket. That's what it's all about. A win over Maine Fort Kent, and we've got highlights tonight to look at from that win and from the loss to Life University. Let's take a look at the highlights now of last week's Bears action.
Here's some of our starting our offense from our defense here. And, we don't want Darian Leslie bringing it up every time, but he's such an aggressive type player. And, that kind of move right there for us, he's got to get more and more of. And he did some of that. He had 10 points and 11 rebounds, but we've got to get more of that out of him. And here we are in some of our ball screen action with a great penetration and pitch and a great shot for Clint Wasu. And Clint's going to get it going too. He's a great shooter. Here's another great out-of-bounds play. Just happened to miss a shot. But, again, one of the really positives for our team has been our offensive rebound. And there's 2 examples of great offensive rebound and great passing right there from Antoine to Mike. And then, again, defensively, we're doing some really good things, forcing some bad shots, some misses. And then in transition right here, here's Desmond Metter doing what he does, going to the basket, strong, straight-line drive, and got the good finish around the basket. And here's Jordan Perry doing some great things defensively. And, again, leading our break here is Darian Leslie, and we just got to continue to get more of that from him. He's our horse, and we're trying to ride him through there, and he's got to continue to produce for us. And here's RJ Colbreth and some of our blast action where we get some cutting through and some movement. Great high post entry right here, and very good. This was out of a timeout. Great execution, and Jordan Perry really stepped up in this game for us. He made some big shots down the stretch. He's not playing like a freshman anymore, and just continues to get better and better for us. And here's Desmond Metter starting the fast break, and again, straight line drive. When he does that, he's a big-time help for us. Defensively right here, great help by Mike. Mike's, I think, third in the conference in block shots and giving us a great presence on the inside. And transition-wise, great job. Ball went from one side to the other side, and there was a big shot for us coming down the stretch. We just couldn't close the deal.
Indeed. Of course, the Bears fall to Life University, who happen to lead the Mid-South Conference standings at this point. Very average when you look at their record overall. They're hovering around 500, but in the conference, they've come to play every night.
It's just about the weirdest scenario that you possibly can. They've got 10 losses to this point, but they're 9-2 in the league. Just a very strange situation. It hurts them nationally with all those losses.
Sure.
They'll probably have to do some things here late in the season to continue to get themselves an opportunity to play in the national tournament.
We're going to talk about the Bears' mental state. Where's the confidence at with this team when we come back? And, of course, on the road at Campbellsville on Saturday, we'll preview that. A couple of your assistant coaches will join us tonight. One was a player for you and one that I know you're very proud of, and we'll meet those guys coming back. It's the Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless, live from Buffalo Wild Wings. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Buffalo Wild Wings in Pikeville. It's the Coach Kelly Wells Show, and we're talking U Pike basketball. The Bears on the road at Campbellsville Saturday, and we'll be rejoined by the coach. We'll get a complete scouting report on Campbellsville and that matchup as the Bears close out the regular season with 4 Mid-South Conference games. Joined now by a graduate assistant at the University of Pikeville, and it's a name that in Eastern Kentucky, you remember this guy. He was a tremendous high school player at Elliott County before going on to Radford and closing out your college career at Charleston.
Yes, sir.
And Evan, welcome to the Kelly Wells Show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks
And
for having me.
welcome to Pikeville, your first year
Yes, sir.
on the staff of Coach Kelly Wells. Let's talk about that journey. How did you go from a high school start at Elliott County and then arriving here as a graduate assistant?
Well, it's kind of come full circle for me getting to come back home this year. But a year after I graduated, I got to spend on staff at University of Charleston where I finished playing. And from there, took the head coaching job at Ripley High School and spent 2 good years there. A little different experience doing the high school thing, but knew the whole time that my ultimate aspiration was to get back on the college side of it.
Sure. And
pursue that goal. And when this job came open and I found out about it, I knew that it would be a great opportunity to learn from a great staff and again, give me that chance to get back and start pursuing the goal of trying to work my way up the college side. So it all felt right, and getting to come back home was kind of the icing on the cake and be a little closer to my family and
Sure.
and get to work with, alongside championship coaches and for a championship program.
Of course, you played your high school career at Elliott County, and I think a lot of people in the mountains recall those years because it was Elliott County and it was Shelby Valley.
Yep.
And there was a great rivalry that developed over several years during that time. That's the Evan Falkner, now an assistant coach at the University of Pikeville. Coming from Elliott County, obviously you were familiar with Kelly Wells even during that time because of his time in the 16th region. What is it like transitioning from a player to a college player and then to a high school and then a college assistant coach? Talk about that transition.
Well, the player side of it is probably a bigger adjustment because of the physicality and the speed. You hear all those things all the time, but they're certainly true. And there's kind of a stigma even at this level in Division II where I finished playing that it's so much below the level of play than Division I. And I got to experience both sides of it and know firsthand. That's certainly not the case. So all levels are a big step and a big challenge for guys to just get in a routine. There's no teachers or your mom and dad's not there taking care of you, so to speak. The adjustment is for you to grow up and be a man and be an adult and take care of things on your own. So. And then the coaching side of it, I think the biggest adjustment is trying to get acclimated with the recruiting.
Yeah.
obviously you don't get to do that at high school, and at this level, as you try to advance, it's really important that you build the right kind of connections and demonstrate that you're capable of helping in that regard and helping your team get players. And that's kind of the livelihood of your program is being able to go out there and get those guys that can help you win. And it's an every year thing, and there's always a lot of turnover. So you got to be able to do it.
Talk about your role on this University of Pikeville staff as far as time demands. How much time is spent recruiting? How much time is spent on game prep? How much time is spent, of course, on practice? And then, of course, there are travel responsibilities as well. Talk about the percentage of time you spend on those things.
Well, at this level, you kind of got to be a jack of all trades.
Sure.
You got to do it all. We're not fortunate with a staff that you just get to designate guys to recruit and guys to scout and do all that. You got to do it all. So, a lot of our office time is spent game planning and scouting. And that's 4 to 5 hours a day at least. Then you spend 2 to 2.5 hours a day practicing. When you're on the road, you're traveling who knows how long or to where, but you obviously factor that in. But for Colt and I, who you'll talk to later, we got to factor our class times in too. We're trying to work on our masters and get that done. And we're in class 2.5 hours twice a week and spending extra time for prep stuff on the class stuff too. So it's certainly a grind, but we're getting some very valuable experience and again, the beautiful thing of it is you get a little responsibility and a hand in all of it, so you get that experience.
Obviously, a goal to become a head coach one day and have your own program, all of these responsibilities. Of course, you've worn those hats when you get that job down the road.
That's right.
Evan Falkner, graduate assistant with the U-Pike Bears, our guest. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed it.
Evan Falkner, our guest. We'll step out. We'll be rejoined. Colt Chapman's up next. It's the Coach Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless. We are live from Buffalo Wild Wings. Welcome back to Buffalo Wild Wings in Pikeville. It's the Coach Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless, as we meet members of the U-Pike coaching staff tonight. Graduate assistants Evan Falkner. What a great conversation we had with him, and now joined by another one of the graduate assistants, a former player at the University of Pikeville. And it's always good to see the players move on to the coaching ranks, and especially those that we had a chance to see play, not just their college career, but in high school as well. Colt Chapman joins us now. Colt, welcome to the Kelly Wells Show.
Thank you for having me. It's always good being on here.
The last time you were here, you were a player
at
U-Pike, and of course, as a young player. Mm-hmm. And now part of the staff at the University of Pikeville. Before we talk about that transition, let's talk about your high school career. And for those that don't know Colt Chapman, talk about where you played and how you arrived as a graduate assistant.
I actually am from Ohio. Currently live in South Carolina, but I graduated from Jackson, Ohio. Just this really small school. It's about 2.5 hours from here. And so I played 2 years varsity there. Really little growing up, so I actually was 5'8" as a freshman. Over one summer I grew to 6'5", so
that's helpful.
Yeah, and so I finally got to play and play some varsity and stuff, and luckily got the opportunity to come here on a full scholarship. So.
And you arrived at the University of Pikeville. You were 6'5", but you were a skinny 6'5", playing in the Mid-South Conference, and you were one of those guys that was playing the 4 and 5. And as we were talking before the show tonight, Coach Wells, I know, is especially proud of you because the player that you became calls you one of the hardest working players that he's ever had as a player, and you truly became that rebounding force at 6'5" against guys much bigger. How is it for you now as an assistant coach to be able to talk with guys, to be able to work with the guys that are in the paint working for rebounds when they're the same size as those guys going against? Is it helpful for you to be able to coach them?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the times it's good too because, as a player, I knew that, all the times, sometimes you get frustrated with your head coach or the older assistant coaches. And for somebody like me being a graduate assistant, it's somebody that they can kind of come to and be like, all right, I wanted, a guy who just graduated, I just played last year.
Yep.
So I can kind of give them a more, personal kind of experience and say, okay, this is what I did when I played, or this is how I did this, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on and what can help you out. And like you said, being undersized, you kind of got to find some tricks of the trade kind of to get the job done. And so I just kind of help correlate that over to them.
And just being out as a player, you're able to relate to those guys. You may have been teammates.
Yeah.
And that's something that you transition from being a teammate. Now you're a part of the coaching staff. How difficult is that?
It's difficult. You know, I find myself a lot of the time I'll be sitting on the bench and I still feel like I'm a player. You know, as coach is coming down, he's looking for a sub. I'm looking up at him like, "I'll put
You're
me
ready
in."
to
Yeah,
take the warm-up off.
exactly. And it's tough, you know, but at the same time, it's a blessing to be able to stay around basketball.
Right.
You know, whenever you finally, you know, shoot your last shot as a senior, you wonder, you know, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And now the opportunity to kind of stay around the same guys I played with and the same coach who is a blessing to be, you know, underneath and learn from, and it's just amazing opportunity. I really enjoy it. So.
And, of course, working on your master's degree, what are your goals for the future?
So currently I'm working on my master's in business administration, and I'd love to coach. You know, I love the game, and the game's given so much to me. So I'd love to be able to give back to the game. So I'd like to coach, and you know, I'm young. I'm still starting out, still learning things.
Right.
And that's the goal right now. So I guess just see where the future leads, but coaching for sure.
You've got a great guy to coach under.
Absolutely.
And learn the coaching ranks. Colt Chapman, thanks for being with us. Always great to see you, and truly one of our favorite Bears of all time. He's one of the hardest working guys in college basketball right there, that made himself into a rebounder at 6'5", always undersized. It was a pleasure to watch you play. We wish you luck in the future.
Thank you very much.
Colt Chapman, graduate assistant at the University of Pikeville. We'll step out. Coach Kelly Wells rejoins us. It's presented by Appalachian Wireless. We are live from Buffalo Wild Wings. Welcome back in. It's the Kelly Wells Show as we talk U Pike basketball tonight. And, of course, it's presented by Appalachian Wireless. We come to you live from Buffalo Wild Wings and rejoined now by the head coach of your University of Pikeville Bears. Coach Kelly Wells, there are many guys that develop a coaching tree, and you've started to do that. These two guys that we met tonight, Colt Chapman, a former player, Evan Falkner, a guy from Elliott County that many remember his high school career because he battled against some of our mountain teams. But you've got some other guys that have played for you that have gone on to coaching careers now. Talk about the pride that you have in those guys that have gone on and they're finding success.
Well, part of a head coach's responsibility is to pay it forward, so to speak. And, you know, I've been blessed to have great coaches around me, and I think part of our success, a lot of it has been because of the continuity we've had between coaches here. And we've sent guys to Division I head coaching jobs, to Division I assistant coaching jobs, to high school head coaching jobs. You know, and that's a great part for me, is to try to give back, and hopefully we've had some impact on a positive way on these guys as far as their understanding of how to deal with players, how to love your players,
right.
How to invest time with those people and help them grow from the point where they are to where you can see them going. And now they're in positions where they get to pay it back to other people. And the best things are when they call and tell you about their lives and what's going on. And it's awesome to see guys like Richie Riley or coaching at Nicholls State and his team doing well.
Sure.
You know, and those phone calls mean everything to you. They keep you motivated. They keep you humble and know that you've got a bigger mission than just winning or losing basketball games. There's so much more to being a coach, in my opinion, than just winning and losing. And we try to make sure we expose all those facets to our guys.
Absolutely, and we're certainly seeing that with guys that wore the orange and black throughout the area, even today. Coach, we have to ask the question. I know the answer, but you're an influence to a lot of these guys, players, assistant coaches that move on and move through the ranks. But talk about someone that was an influence in your career that you knew you wanted to be a coach at some point.
Well, my biggest influence was right at home. My dad was the guy that he drugged me to practices. He drugged me to work with him. I learned to play on the campus of Moorhead. I went to every gym. I shot on every goal that was around, indoor, outdoor, and I just kind of fell in love with being around the game of basketball. And then just the relationships you build with people was very important to me. As I grew up, I was a younger guy playing on a college campus all the time and got to know those folks. And most of my important, valuable relationships come from those experiences through basketball in some way, and that's kind of impacted me and molded me, and it also made me realize that the role I have in that too. I've got to be a mentor. I've got to be somebody that models the behaviors that need to be out there, and It's been a great ride to this point, and certainly my dad has been a big impact. My mother is who I have more of a temperament to, I think, than my father. There's a great balance there, opposites attract, so that's why they've done so well together. And hopefully I've got the good from both of those and tried to ignore some of the bad. But by far, the most influential person in my life has been my mom and dad.
Absolutely. And, of course, temperament aside, how similar is your coaching style to your dad's?
Well, we vary a lot, and he'll be the first to tell you that. You know, he and I don't always agree on approach and so on and so forth, and that doesn't make him right, me wrong, or vice versa. And we just love each other through it. And there's times we just agree to disagree, but he always has our back 100% of the time. And Mom prays over us all, and Dad kind of yells at us all. So that's kind of how it works.
It's all good. The Bears 20-6, 5-5 in the Mid-South Conference. You close out the regular season with 4 Mid-South Conference matchups. The next on the road at Campbellsville Saturday. Let's get a preview.
Well, they're a little different than when we played them just recently. They've lost a couple guys and added one. They're very talented. They're still trying to figure their way through things. Anytime you go on the road in the conference, it's always a battle. It's tough. Sure. They've got 5 starters who all can play very, very good basketball, and they're very balanced, very similar to what we are as far as scoring goes. There's nobody that's more or less. Their best shooter is the Hagen Tyler kid. He's very, very deadly if we don't guard him well. But they'll be hungry for us to come down there. We beat them pretty good at our place, and we want to go on the road and get ourselves, carrying that mojo down the stretch. And one of our goals has not really been how many games we win this year, is we want to be at our best at the end of the season. And we've got a lot of growing to do. And we talked to our guys about being accountable and handling adversity and getting to the point where we can still be that. And I can vision it. I can see us getting better, and I think we got a lot of room to get there. But time's of the essence. We need to start getting that going now.
How difficult is it to wash away that first matchup, especially with the Campbellsville? It was so far back, and they're different now than they were then. Going to the scouting report as opposed to your players' memory of what they saw last time.
Well, it's a challenge, but we take every game as a one-game championship, and we really try to dive into exactly what we want to do for each opponent. And we spend more time than probably most on scouting and personnel and editing and those kind of things. So our guys are extremely prepared. Now, whether they get ready or not, that's on them. They've got to bring that to the table. But we give them every avenue to be successful out there, and they're gonna and they listen. They do what we're supposed to. There's just some nights that a little slippage, so we've got to get that down pat. But we treat every single game as a new game. We don't try to think about the last one, because most important is their last 5 or 6 games that they had versus our last game with them.
Kelly, let's get a win Saturday.
I'm with you, and we're hungry for it, and certainly everybody tune in and follow us, and then we get back home. We've got a 3-game stretch at home for all conference games. We'd love to see the Expo packed.
Let's do it. Coach Kelly Wells, head coach of your Bears, 4 p.m. tip-off Saturday at Campbellsville. You can hear it on Z1075 beginning at 3:45. For Kelly Wells, Colt Chapman, Evan Falkner, you've been tuned to The Kelly Wells Show, presented by Appalachian Wireless.